It is a truth universally acknowledged that everyone loves Krobus. You can try and convince me otherwise, but I will not be swayed. Everyone loves Krobus. But if you are anything like me, first off, I'm so sorry. But second off, after a while, you stop reading the villagers' dialogue. You might even just skip over all the cutscenes too while you're at it. It's no big deal when it's a villager saying the same thing over and over again, but when it comes to Krobus, we are not only doing him an injustice, but we are doing ourselves one as well. You see, I would die for this pixelated shadow man, but honestly, I don't know anything about him besides the fact he has a distaste for dwarves. But that is all about to change. We're going to deep dive into everything and anything Krobus. Let's get started. Right off the bat, we can learn some things from the Wiki. I mean, at this point, there's really not much we can't learn from the Wiki, like Krobus' favorite movie or gift, but let's be honest. You can learn a lot about Krobus on the Wiki, but you don't actually know Krobus, and that, quite frankly, is criminal. Let's get the elephant out of the room. It says Krobus is a monster. That is a little rude if you ask me. I think he's a decent shadow person. It specifies he's a shadow person who lives in the sewers. It also says he sells rare goods and can be your roommate. Beyond that, it has what's in his shop, his gift preferences, what one movie he likes, what having him as a roommate entails, his heart events or really lack thereof, and some miscellaneous information. That's all to say, just by looking at the wiki, we can gather a lot of information about him, but we don't actually experience any of it firsthand. So let's change that. Before we can spend every wiki moment pestering Krobus, we'll first need to gain access to the sewers. You could, of course, use mods in order to get access to him instantly. Otherwise, you'll have to unlock the sewers the old-fashioned way by donating 60 items to the museum. I want to take some time to mention that everything from this point forward could be considered a spoiler, as we'll be diving into Krobus' heart events. Continue at your own risk. Once you can access the sewers, you'll have full 24/7, well, more like 22/7 access to Krobus as well. Let me tell you, this man has the work ethic like no other. Pierre should take notes. Krobus runs a shop in the sewers, and he's never closed. Never. However, he might need to keep his hours so available because his shop is, in the sewers after all. But it does make sense why he sets up shop here. First, Krobus is wary of humans. He likes to observe them, but he does not really interact with them. He doesn't even want you to tell anyone of his existence because he's afraid of how people will react. He'll actually tell you that he's been taught to fear humans because of too many unpleasant encounters. These encounters aren't just something to brush off, because I'd wager he means many of them get killed in the mines. Yeah, those shadow brutes you kill in level 80 of the mines are shadow people. When you kill one, you might as well be killing Krobus. Second, Krobus likes the humid climate of the sewers. He will like to mention this a lot if you talk to him. Which does make sense considering his fellow shadow people also reside deep underneath the ground in the mines. Third, the sewers provide a nice hideout from the dwarves. Krobus mentioned there was a 1,000-year war with the dwarves. He does not go into much detail beyond stating there is resentment on both sides. So much resentment, he tells you if the dwarves found out his location, he'd surely be assassinated. So what you'll find out early on is, if you consistently talk to Krobus beyond just Iridium Sprinkler Day, aka Friday, aka also the day he does not say anything out of respect for yoba, you'll find out he's wary of humans, has a distaste for dwarves, likes the conditions of the sewers, and he is deeply devoted to yoba. As you become friends with Krobus, you'll start to see him become more accepting of humans. He won't be so wary of them, but he still likes to observe them from a distance. Whatever you do in town, Krobus is probably listening in through the pipes. Despite presumably knowing all the town's secrets and growing closer in relationship with you, he still thinks the townspeople knowing about him is a bad idea. As you gain more hearts with Krobus, you won't actually encounter any direct cutscenes or heart scenes with just him. You can't see him in the Dark Talisman quest or a Winter Mystery quest, where it is debatable whether or not that is even Krobus in the first place. However, you can trigger a cutscene with Krobus and the dwarf. To do this, you'll need 50 heart points with the dwarf, and you'll need to have bought a star drop from Krobus. This scene will give a little bit of background for the war between dwarves and shadow people, aka the war that happened 1,000 years ago, aka the Elemental War. What we learn from this is dwarves drove the shadow people out of their homes and a war ensued. The wizard comes in and explains the war has long since been over, yet the dwarf and Krobus still take a swing at each other. Krobus did mention to us earlier that there's still tension between the two. In the end, there is sort of a truce between them. But Krobus does seem remorseful for the death of the dwarves. I wonder if it's because the shadow people know what it's like to be killed by humans. Just like how the dwarves were attacked by the shadow people. Interestingly, the dwarf actually sells bombs in the mines, which can be used to kill more shadow people. Just think about it. As that sinks in, beyond that, you won't really learn much more unless you ask Krobus to be your roommate. As you climb up in hearts on your way to having Krobus help you with the rent, he will begin to naturally grow less wary of you. Before asking Krobus to take the next step in your relationship, you must have 10 hearts with Krobus and have upgraded your house once. You'll upgrade to a double bed that you will never actually share with Krobus. In order to upgrade, you just need to go to Robin's and pay 10k as well as give her 450 pieces of wood. And then 3 days later, your house will be upgraded, and then you can buy a Void Ghost pendant. To get the pendant, you'll have to travel to the Desert Trader. She will sell it to you for 200 Void Essences. Yes, you did hear that right. You buy the pendant with one of the things a Shadow Brew drops after you've killed it. After you have acquired this somewhat sketchy pendant, you can give it to Krobus, and he will be at your house in just a few days. When you give him the pendant, he seems reasonably happy, but he still wants to keep things a secret. He also mentions that he won't be able to leave the house once he moves in, much like how he never seems to really leave the sewers. I know I mentioned he had a work ethic like no other, but surely such a decision is bad for business. In any case, as Krobus prepares to enter confinement at your farm, unlike when you marry someone in the game, there is no special ceremony or anything. Krobus will just show up with an attached room. Now, just because he no longer stays in the sewers does not mean his shop won't be open. It still is, it's just manned by a box instead. Again, this does seem bad for business, but I guess since I'm really the only one buying anything from him, I'll bet his business will continue to thrive. With Krobus not living with you, he'll still not speak on Fridays. He'll also still talk about how he likes the humidity. In order for him to even move in, it seems he's changed the temperature in the house to resemble his beloved sewers. He'll expand on this though, talking about his taste for bugs. Additionally, he'll talk about the struggles of a shadow person living with a human. He also likes to point out the difference the two share, like humans having the need to go outside and the fact humans have bones. Ultimately, by being his roommate, you'll encounter some interesting conversations. Oddly enough, it seems like he is allured by the scent of our sweat, which, I mean, all things considered, is probably a step up from the putrid scent of the sewer he was used to inhaling. As always, Krobus is still a little self-conscious about himself. Even though we've asked him to move in, you can tell he does not want to be a nuisance. In an attempt to be a good roommate, he'll try his hand at making human food, and he even mentions he'll take care of the household chores, which does seem like a win to me. I mean, he gets to clean the house, eating tasty bugs along the way, and I'll get to sit back and carry the Stardew Valley economy on my back. When he's not cooking or cleaning, there is a good chance he could be sat somewhere around the house for hours on end, as he says he does not need to get out like us mere humans. Ultimately, by being his roommate, you'll encounter some interesting conversations as Krobus warms up to humans. And at 14 hearts, you'll get this wonderful cutscene at the beach. I would say rooming with Krobus enhances what we already learned by befriending him. All in all, I think this just goes to show that Krobus is undoubtedly the best character in Stardew Valley. Despite his people's past with humans, Krobus has opened his hearts up to us, and maybe next time you might hesitate before you kill a shadow brute. I mean, you could be killing Krobus's family for all you know.